Arthur Bennett had been to war, but nothing in those years of service prepared him for the feeling of being invisible in his own country. At 73, he carried the weight of history on his shoulders. The medals on his jacket were proof of a life lived in sacrifice. Tonight was meant to be different. It wasn't about hospitals, doctors, or quiet evenings in his flat. Tonight was about honor. A charity had invited him to the Marlowe Grand, the kind of luxury hotel he'd only ever seen on television, for an auction benefiting wounded veterans. The place was breathtaking. Golden chandeliers shimmered against marble floors polished so bright they reflected the light like water. A string quartet played somewhere in the background. Guests floated by in tuxedos and gowns, sipping champagne as though they had been born with crystal glasses in their hands. Arthur sat in his wheelchair just inside the entrance, taking it all in. His granddaughter had insisted he wear a proper tie, even helping him knot it, saying with a grin, "You'll look like a king, Granddad." He'd polished his medals, their metal catching the light, hoping, foolishly, that someone might ask about them. But before he could wheel himself to the check-in desk, the laughter began. It came from his left, near the velvet lounge chairs by the fireplace. 3 men in expensive suits sat with the relaxed arrogance of people who believed the world existed for their comfort. One, heavyset with a diamond ring big enough to be seen across the room, leaned forward and grinned. "Would you look at that? They're letting street performers in now." The others laughed. Arthur kept his gaze fixed on the desk, pretending not to hear. He'd learned the hard way that reacting only gave men like them more ammunition. The tall one with slicked back hair smirked. "Careful, lads. Those wheels might leave scuffs on the marble. Probably not insured for that." Arthur's hands tightened on the armrests. The third man, younger but with the same cruel smirk, added, "I'll bet he's not here for the auction. Probably here to see if the buffet's free." Their laughter grew louder. A few nearby guests looked over, curious, then quickly looked away. That was the thing about wealthy crowds. They didn't like to get involved. The slick-haired man raised his hand to wave over a passing hotel staff member, a young man in a pressed uniform. "Excuse me," he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Is there a policy on this sort of thing? This is a 5-star hotel, not a Veterans Day Center." Arthur felt the heat crawl up his neck. The staff member approached, his steps hesitant, an apology already in his eyes. "Sir, are you?" He never finished. A voice from behind stopped him cold. "Don't." The air seemed to shift. People turned to see a man in a dark jacket walking toward them, his steps measured, his expression unreadable. Jason Statham wasn't there to make a scene, but his presence had that effect. The businessmen blinked, their smirks faltering as recognition set in. "Oh, well, if it isn't the movie tough guy," Slick Hair said, forcing a laugh. "What's the matter, Jason? Playing the hero tonight?" Jason stepped closer, his gaze locked on them. "No, I'm just making sure no one mistakes cruelty for class." The diamond ring man scoffed. "We're just keeping standards. This is a luxury place." Jason cut him off. "And that man is the reason you can sit here and enjoy it without fear. He's earned his place in this room more than any of you have." The room was quieter now. Guests pretended to sip drinks but listened closely. Arthur shifted uncomfortably. "It's all right, son. I'm used to it." Jason turned to him, voice softening. "You shouldn't have to be." Then louder, for the whole room hung. "This man's name is Arthur Bennett, Royal Marines. Retired. He fought for this country, put his life on the line, and came home carrying the scars you can't see. And this is how you treat him." The slick-haired man rolled his eyes. "Oh please, he's probably here for a freebie." Jason smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're right, he is. Tonight, he's getting one from me." He looked at Arthur. "Come on, sir. You're sitting with me at the auction. Front row." Arthur hesitated, but Jason placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and reassuring. They moved toward the ballroom together, but not before Jason turned back to the businessman. "And you 3. You might want to look up the word respect. You're bankrupt in it." Inside the ballroom, Jason made sure Arthur's chair was placed at the center table, right beside him. When the auctioneer welcomed the crowd and spoke about the evening's purpose, Jason stood and interrupted briefly. "Before we start, I want to honor someone. Arthur Bennett, Royal Marines. This night is for people like him, not for the loudest, not for the richest, but for those who gave when it cost them everything." The applause started hesitantly, then grew into a standing ovation. Arthur's eyes glistened, his hand trembling as he gave a small wave. For the rest of the night, strangers came to shake his hand, thank him, and hear his stories. When the auction ended, Arthur leaned toward Jason. "You didn't have to do all that." Jason smiled. "Yes, I did. Some fights you don't walk away from, even if they're not yours." Outside, the businessmen from earlier left quietly, their swagger gone. Inside, Arthur rolled out of the hotel with something far rarer than fine wine or gold watches, dignity restored. And for everyone who witnessed it, the message was clear. True class isn't about wealth. It's about how you treat those who have given more than they ever took.